he gets a vote every day. If those factory workers have no jobs, they're going to be like a Frankenstein with torches.
So the New York Times siding with Chinese slave labor against, it looks like, American workers.
All right, I don't know about you, but there seems to be almost this sympathy for China over the American worker, over the American entrepreneur. So in this video, we will watch a brand new Kevin O'Leary meltdown on CNN to remind everyone we cannot be sympathetic to the Chinese government. They are destroying the United States, and we will go over some other meltdowns as well. Now, before we start the video, please like the video. It's the #1 way you can help this channel, and it helps others see the videos as well. It's a massive help.
We allow this. And so instead of just the rhetoric on tariffs, I don't care about tariffs. I want this behemoth entity, China, which I would like to do business with. I have nothing wrong with the Chinese people. I want to sell to them. But it is such an unbalanced playing field on just IP theft. Let's go in with 400% tariffs, shut down all trade until Xi comes to the table and not just solves on tariffs. That's not enough. I need access to the litigation there. I want him to comply with the rules that he agreed to comply with in 2000 with the World Trade Organization. There's thousands of complaints about China, and nobody ever holds them to account. It's unbelievable what they get away with on our own domestic market. They bankrupt millions of American companies by stealing their IP, and I'm not okay with it anymore because I'm an investor. So I thank the president for having a discussion, but that's not enough. We've got to solve this problem because we're in an economic war with them, and they want to become the world's largest economy by stealing IP to get there. They don't have to pay for what it costs to develop a product that I invest in. They rip off and bring back into this market a 40% discount till they wipe out the originator, the American entrepreneur, with American jobs going to zero because they cheat and they steal. I'm done with it.
Now, one thing I have noticed is every single time Kevin O'Leary goes on these shows, no response, nobody can say anything. There's no sympathy for the Chinese government. For the Chinese people, yes, but for the Chinese government, no. But it's just funny because when Democrats are not confronted with these simple facts that the American entrepreneur is getting destroyed, intellectual property is getting destroyed, China recreates American companies, steals everything, then resells it to Americans and makes all that money, you will notice there is virtually no response because we are only focusing on the stock market.
Vowing to fight to the end, if you will. What do you make of that, the Customs Tariff Commission of the State Council?
Sounds like a beginning of a negotiation to me. I mean, it's just rhetoric. It's noise. But I can guarantee you right now within the Chinese Communist Party, there's people talking about this. There's, I'm sure, a little bit of dissension. This is not good for China. And when you think about the situation, the Chinese economy is much weaker than the American economy. They had a major real estate correction with billions of dollars of debt at stake, even trillions. They've got problems, and they may have to devalue their currency, which is a tax on Europe and the United States. It's not all good over there. And so I think further head squeezing is necessary. And I don't care. But my whole point is, be bombastic. Go to a crazy rate to signal that you're not going to mess around. I like 400. It kind of has a nice ring to it. And then just say, look, we're going to shut down trade, and all those people in your factories that you got to keep employed, they're probably getting a little nervous. And I think it's time for you to meet the president wherever. They can fly to any city, Riyadh, Geneva, come to Washington, whatever it is, and start these negotiations. And when that happens, the markets are going to stabilize. It's going to get worked out. So everybody should just chillax and wait for this to happen, because it's going to.
Now, I am really curious how you guys feel about this. How long do you think this is going to last? Kevin O'Leary seems to be very confident, this deal is going to come together very fast. Donald Trump has even said very recently, like a day ago, that he is open to a deal with China, and European nations are without a doubt siding with the United States, to include Australia and other Asian countries as well, our main ally. So again, China realizes, look, their back is up against the wall, and one thing I do want to point out is the United States is closer to a deal with Ukraine and Russia as well. So everything right now is falling apart for China. It's really annoying to hear rhetoric like this.
So the New York Times siding with Chinese slave labor against, it looks like, American workers who've been flatlining for the last 20 years.
Laura, we have lost in the state of Missouri 50,000 jobs to China just in the last 20 years. I don't recall the New York Times shedding too many tears about that. But now we're supposed to feel sorry for these workers in China who, by the way, as you said, are being treated like slaves. Here's the issue. President Trump is absolutely right to go after China. He's absolutely right to make sure that we can rebuild our manufacturing capacity, to make sure we can protect our jobs, and to stop China from dumping their exports into our markets and destroying entire industries. They've already taken millions of our jobs, Laura. We cannot let this go on any longer, and the president, he gets it.
Now, it's very difficult to get a straight answer as far as how many jobs have been lost in the United States due to China. You have a lot of biases. Some articles will blame Trump for jobs that were lost due to over-innovation and trade deals. So the number I am seeing across the board is around 2.5 to 3 million jobs have been lost due to China ever since 2001, when China started to make more deals with the United States and enter the World Trade Organization. Let that sink in. So again, when you have Democrats sounding somewhat sympathetic to Chinese workers and the Chinese government, remember, ask them, do you feel sympathetic to the U.S. workers who have lost their jobs? And again, we view that number, the 3 million, like, okay, but remember, that is individual families. Those are individual workers. That is the individual potential of an American to make something of themselves in this country. Think about that.
No. I have investments in 52 private companies. You know, the majority of jobs created in America are companies between 5 and 500 employees. I see their sales tear sheets every week. Those were fantastic job numbers last Friday. We have low inflation. I'm looking at my sell-through. We're looking at all the stuff we're going to be doing in the holiday because we're actually building for that now. We're not in a recession. Look, I know everybody's gnashing their teeth. By the way, the market corrected over 20%. That happens all the time. And maybe you want to blame it on tariff wars. We have corrections in the S&P constantly, almost every 18 months. That's the nature of the market. It doesn't mean we're going into a recession. Now, look, unfortunately, there's volatility here, and I disagree with Chuck. I have a lot of respect for him. This is not some seminal moment for Trump. At the end of the day, it's just the beginning of a dance.
All right. Well, tell you what, come back in a month when we got the next round of inflation and job numbers, because, hey, if you're right, we'll give you credit. And if you're wrong, we'll dissect why. Thank you very much.
Now, one thing I have to point out while we're here, I did make a video on this, but we might as well talk about what Chuck had to say. Chuck compared everything that's going on to the Afghanistan withdrawal. I'm not kidding. Check this out.
Chuck Todd, let me start with you big picture on this week, because there have been a lot of weeks of history that you and I have covered often together when Donald Trump has been in the White House. But this one may end up being one of the most history-making.
It could. The comparison I'm making right now is a comparison to the week that I think was the beginning of the end of the Biden presidency, which was the botched withdrawal from Afghanistan. Because this week could have that kind of impact. At that point, once Joe Biden lost the competence question of people, because the Afghanistan issue really hurt him harder because the core competency voters thought Joe Biden had was on national security. So when it was like, whoa, he's messing that up, it started to erode confidence in everything else.
It was a major turning point for his whole presidency.
And he never recovers from it. This week, for me, feels similar to that this is Donald Trump's Afghanistan moment. Because the core competency voters had with him was, but the economy. You may have had all these other things, but boy, this guy, the economy was pretty good in Trump 1.0, and that's what I want back. I want that economy back. And he's botching the one thing that voters, even those that were not big fans of maybe his national security or his character issues, they thought he had this.
Now, to be fair, I cannot find anyone who agrees with Chuck Todd as far as making this comparison that Donald Trump's Tariff Week or Liberation Day had anything to do and comparable to the Afghanistan failures. However, this is probably the biggest failure on CNN we have ever seen, featuring Scott Jennings.
Trade, honestly, the trade is asymmetrical.
And who voted for Donald Trump?
Precisely. Trade is asymmetrical with China. We imported over 439 billion products from China. We exported over 140 billion from China. Their own foreign ministry has said, we will not flinch. We will not genuflect to a bullying government. I respectfully disagree.
You, though, Tiffany, that we rely so much on an adversary to make most of our goods?
Listen, whether it bothers me or not is irrelevant. I'm dealing with reality.
Important, though.
It is important, but this is what it is.
Why does it have to be the reality that we are dependent on so many things to come out of our biggest adversary in the world? They are the enemy, and we should not be dependent on them.
But no, they are not our enemy. They're our biggest trading partner. And if we
earth minerals and you don't.
They're the enemy.
Right. But listen, but like it or not, sure, Michael, they are our biggest trading partner. And if we were to manufacture iPhones here, iPhones would cost $3,500. The American people are not going to tolerate that. We have one of the highest standards of working conditions here. I don't think that we can say, forget you, China. They
so it's
literally.
Okay. So you're okay. Hold on, sure, Michael. So you're okay. You're okay if we continue to put our own economic and national security future in the hands of our biggest enemy, because effectively they use slave labor to build stuff, and that makes it better for us? That is terrible.
I am 100% not okay with that, but I'm dealing in the reality of what is.
Do you want to change it?
But we need to.
I absolutely want to change it. I don't know that changing it means isolating us on the global stage.
So what happens? So Tiffany, if I could ask, what happens if we ever have a military conflict with China, and they say, you know what, we're going to put an embargo on anything shipping to the United States. We're going to stop everything. What happens then?
These books. First of all, seeing that video of Kamala Harris and then these videos of Tim Walz the last few days, man, did we dodge a bullet. Lord have mercy. These books coming out.
Walking into the fire right now,
These books coming out. It can all be told now. I mean, I sat here all during the campaign and was assured Joe Biden was fine. Kamala Harris had the most organic, grassroots-driven campaign. The Democrats were unified. We had a campaign of joy. And everything was hunky-dory. That's what I was told night after night after night. And now all the books are coming out, and it's amazing because a lot of the people who were telling those lies are now going to get paid to write those books.
I think a lot of people,
it's crazy.
Yeah, I think a lot of people feel that betrayal, being lied to their face about Biden's health, about the strength of the party.
Our own government from the White House podium lied to us about his condition and covered it up. And even Ron Klain, the former chief of staff, is now saying things that are crazy when you read them.
That lying is wrong, right?
Right.
I'm gonna hold you to that.
I agree that we lived through the biggest scandal in modern American politics. John Avlon, yes.
All right. I gotta leave it there, guys.
All right, so look, we don't know exactly what's going to happen overall. The stock market, though, is it down? Yes, it's down from the initial plateau, went straight down, went back up, went down, and is going back up. But again, we don't know if that is stock market manipulation as far as buying on the low, boosting it up, this up and down. That is why you have to be very careful on judging the stock market. But right now, we do see Republicans more and more standing up and saying, look, the tariffs are one thing, but innovation, entrepreneurs, that's another thing. We keep losing all of this to China. In the grand scheme of things, this is really bad. That is why I keep playing these Kevin O'Leary clips, because he seems to be the only person going on television and nobody can oppose him. Nobody says anything. And whether or not you like Kevin O'Leary for, he's done some things in the past or his attitude on Shark Tank, there's virtually nobody saying what he's saying is wrong. So anyway, let me know how you guys feel about all of this. Let me know if this is just a bunch of hype from Democrats, if Republicans need to be a little better about their messaging. Let me know. Thank you guys for everything. God bless, and we'll see you all later.